Hi everyone, welcome back to your second try a chapter video for October. Surprise, you get 2 of these. So the first one that you should have seen this month was my paranormal romance try a chapter, which hopefully by now should already be out. And today we're going to do something just a little bit different. I seem to have forgotten to do my intro, so hi, welcome to the Novelty Corner. I'm Steph, this is my channel. Welcome or welcome back. Today, Heather from Here Booktubes and I are doing a bit of a collab where we are reading Halloween themed romance first chapters to see if we can try and find a book to read. If you've not seen one of my try chapter videos before, I pick my books for the try chapter in various ways. I do randomized things, I have folders organized on my Kindle, I've done physical books, I've done different themes like hockey and paranormal romance and you name it, like I've done it. For this particular one, I didn't have very many, if any, I think, books on my Kindle already, or even on just my general, well, I do have a couple of physical books, but not enough to do this entire video. So what I have decided to do instead is I have previously, over the weekend, browsed Amazon and Kindle Unlimited and created a little bit of a wishlist folder with 10 Halloween themed romance novellas, and I'm going to try the first chapter of all of them. So in a minute I'm going to go through the titles and the authors of all of these books. However, one little caveat that I'm going to say is I have not checked any of these out on Kindle Unlimited, not a single one of them. I'm going to be reading the first chapters solely on the Amazon platform through the preview feature, and I have only ever done this, particularly this year, once in 110 books or 120 books. What am I up to now? This might be my 13th try chapter video this year, in which case in 120 books I've only done this once. And that's because I don't really want to check out books that I'm not going to be reading, so I'm going to read the first chapter and then decide on a book to read tonight. Why am I doing it this way? I don't know, this is how it made sense in my brain. Alrighty, so I'm going to set this up to screen record. So you should be able to see on the left hand side of the screen I have a whole bunch of wish lists. Like, it's how I organize things, particularly for Kindle Unlimited. Just, it helps me to keep track of where things are, and if I want to do themed reading vlogs or I feel like reading something specific, I have that sorted. Oh my goodness, I should never try to film one of these videos after work. This is why I don't film after work. Friends, I cannot speak. So first on the list we have Ghosted, a spooky and steamy Halloween reverse harem romance. First of all, we don't like RH reverse harem because it's just why choose? Why choose? By Jarica James and Jenee Robinson. Then there is The Pumpkin Spice Spell, a small town cozy rom-com by Erin Branscom. Checked Out on Halloween, a festive romance trilogy by K.T. Harris. The Cursed Bakery, a Halloween romance short story by W.J. Constantine. Monster Mash, a Halloween romance novella by Delia Wilde. Unlucky in Love, a second chance romance with a little bit of Halloween magic by Kiva Hart. Trick or Beast, a Halloween romance by Sarah Spade. Fright Night, a dark romance Halloween novella by M.L. Philpitt. And then Trick or Meet, a Halloween romance by Victoria Bradleigh. And Scary in Love, a spooky spicy Halloween romance by Holly June. So those are the 10 books. I'm hoping that's 10. I hope that I counted that right. Whatever number it is, that's what we're reading. We're going to read the first chapters. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and then I'm going to pick one to read for this video. And maybe some of these will end up on my list, or, you know, potentially they'll end up cut. Let's get into it. Alright, so the first book was Ghosted by Jarica James and Jenee Robinson, and it is following 3 friends. Raven, we're in her perspective, Eli, who is her boyfriend, and Jace, their friend, and the 3 of them are on a ghost tour of a school or something or other. They're on this tour. They're kind of making life very difficult for the tour guide as well, but I think it's Jace or Eli has the idea that they should ditch the tour and find a way to sneak back into the building once it's moved on to the outside in the grounds and stay the night, because it feels like the real deal, and prior to that they were kind of skeptical. I'm probably going to pass on this one. The writing just felt very ordinary, and I had to keep rereading sentences, and it just made it really difficult to kind of get into the flow of the first chapter. So this is probably going to be a miss for me, but now we're going to try The Pumpkin Spice Spell by Erin Branscom. So I forgot that there was at least one novel-length story in here, and it's this one. So this one is 326 pages long. It is The Pumpkin Spice Spell, and we are following, well, we're in the perspective of Willa, who lives in the small town of Wisteria Cove. She has been born and raised in the town. She lives there alongside her 2 sisters and her mum. All 3 of them are witches, and that there's a lot of legends about them within the town, and people kind of mostly over exaggerate who and what they are able to do, but they do know that the women in this family are able to do things that are just a little bit outside the norm. And Willa happens to run a bookshop and coffee house, and the first book is kind of setting up the scene, setting up the relationship between her and her sisters and her mother and their relationship. It also sets up the fact that this is probably going to be some kind of second chance romance, because she is looking at an abandoned house that belonged to someone called Tate, who she has just found out is returning home, and she's curious about that. They used to be best friends. Now she's wondering, okay, well, he's coming back, so what does that mean for me? I found it interesting. I would probably read another couple of chapters of this one to see if I would continue reading it. So next on the list is Checked Out on Halloween by KT Harris. Alrighty, so Checked Out on Halloween by KT Harris is novella length. It starts off in the perspective of Opal, who works at a local bookstore. She happens to go in there, she's doing some shelving and some tidying, and stumbles across a new book that has come in that is a paranormal romance / monster romance-ish kind of book. She's reading it in the store when a customer comes in, and he is very handsome, and she's musing on the fact that he's very handsome. And as he's choosing his books, one of the books that he picks up to take home is the book that she was reading. Then she goes home and she's reading the book and having a very fun time of that herself while thinking of him. Very readable, very consumable. This is a potential. So next we're going to read the first chapter of The Cursed Bakery by W.J. Constantine. Another fun, whimsical opening. So we are in Estella's perspective for The Cursed Bakery. She runs a bakery and she has a talking winged cat called Pip as her companion, and they're having a bit of back and forth banter, and she happens to spy the guy who runs the local bookstore across the road, who happens to be messing with a little bit of magic, which happens to sort of backfire and hits her store and turns all of her inventory and stock, specifically for the upcoming Halloween fair, into stone. And the only way to reverse it is for the two of them to work together before midnight on Halloween, which I'm suspecting is the day. And this one's a very short story. It's under 50 pages, I think. So that was kind of fun as a beginning to a short story. Monster Mash by Delia Wilde. The first chapter of this was short, very to the point. This is another really short one. It's 44 pages long. We're following Claire, who has been convinced by a group of friends to go to this Halloween themed speed dating singles event. And she's getting dressed, she's musing over her choice of costume. She's gone as a black cat, and she sets out to walk to this event, and just straight away red flags, like she doesn't know the name of the event place. When she gets there, it's dark, it's creepy, it's covered in cobwebs, that she's talking about the ground being, you know, very unsafe for walking on, and going up to this big house and the door suddenly opens. I mean, red flags, could not catch me doing that, but in terms of a story setup, very fun. Also a potential I mean, it's 44 pages long. I could easily read that in a sitting. So now we're going to try the first chapter of Unlucky in Love by Kiva Hart. Unlucky in Love actually probably had the first chapter that I liked the most so far out of the first 5. We are in Maeve's perspective. She has been burnt by her previous relationship and her previous partner, and so she's kind of skeptical, isn't a big fan of Halloween, doesn't really want to go out for Halloween, but her best friend is throwing a Halloween party and has basically told her, you better turn up or I'm going to turn up and I'm going to make you come to the party. And we get a scene where her friend does come over and is talking to her and is very empathetic and very much a good friend, and just encouraging her to get out and to not worry so much about finding somebody, and if she needs someone to hide behind, she's going to be there for her and all of that. And I quite liked it. Like, the writing was good, the pacing was good. It is a potential. This is excellent. On to number 7, which is Trick or Beast by Sarah Spade. I was trying to remember how I knew the name Sarah Spade. She wrote Halloween Boo, which I read years ago. Trick or Beast is, the first chapter is from Layla's perspective. She is part of the Beasts of Blackmore series, and there is some kind of competition, hunt, etc. that's happening in Blackmore, and there is a $1,000 prize for the person who wins it. And Layla is getting ready to compete or participate in whatever this hunt challenge etc. is. And that's basically the setup for the first chapter. I'm not convinced that I want to continue to read this one. I don't think there's anything inherently bad about it. It just hasn't grabbed me like Unlucky in Love did, or even some of the shorter ones, just in terms of pacing of the story, but still a decent opening chapter. All right, so now we're going to read the first chapter of Fright Night by M.L. Philpitt. Alright, so this one is probably going to be a no for me. One, it is a dark romance. We know I don't particularly like them, but every now and then I give them a shot just to see if I can find something that I like, because occasionally something slips through the dislike that I have of the subgenre, especially for something so short. Sometimes you can kind of get through them. We are in Knox's perspective. He is currently stalking his stepsister, who he has an infatuation with, despite the fact that she keeps choosing people other than him and doesn't really like him. Not a setup that I'm particularly interested in. But we are going to try Trick or Meet by Victoria Bradleigh. In the first chapter of Trick or Meet, we meet Hannah, who loves Halloween. She's in her 40s. She is decorating her cubicle at work for Halloween, and she's also just found out that there's some work that needs to be done on her house, which is quite old, and one of her friends who helps her out with odd jobs around the place is checking it out for her, and also lets her know that she's got ants and she'll need to pick up some things to deal with that when she gets home. And she's also talking to a co-worker, and then after the end of the day she goes off to the library for an early spooky storytelling session in the library at the end of September in the lead up to October. It was fine, like nothing to write home about. I'm certainly not intrigued necessarily to continue, but there's nothing inherently bad about the writing style of it. It just didn't grab me like some of the others did. So now we're going to read the first chapter of the last book, called Scary in Love by Holly June Smith. So chapter 1 of Scary in Love is from Jenna's perspective. She works in a aged care facility that her parents run. She's very positive about that. She loves the residents that she works with, and at the start of this book she's on a date with someone she's met on a dating app. It's their first date. She describes him very much as beige flag, and they are going to a newly opened haunted house in an old abandoned mansion or house in the town, and it kind of just leaves off there with her talking about how the fact that she's always been drawn to the weird and the creepy and she loves that kind of stuff. She's not convinced her date will, but she's looking forward to going into the haunted house. This is another one that is totally fine. Like, could potentially also read this one. Probably won't, because I think that going back over my not extensive notes, I'm probably not going to, I've taken Ghosted off the list and I've taken Fright Night off the list. I'm probably not going to read the Pumpkin Spice Spell today. I'll keep it, I'll add it to one of my KU lists and just have it there as something to come back to at some point if I feel like it. I think I want to read Unlucky in Love, and then depending on how I'm feeling, I might come back to The Cursed Bakery or Monster Mash, or maybe both of them since they're so short. But I shall let you know. I'm going to do my end of the day stuff, have dinner, etc., and then I'm going to do some reading. All right, hi everyone. I finished reading Unlucky in Love. I was going to read some of the short stories, but I don't want to, because I don't want to ruin the happy feeling that I have after reading this book, which was not perfect. At one point I was genuinely curious and going, is this going to be a 5-star? And it's not quite. There are a couple of little things that happened that just kind of bumped it down just a fraction for me, but honestly, this book is delightful. It is a closed door romance. It's 136 pages. We have Maeve, who has been burned by love and is very skeptical and, you know, hesitant to get in a relationship. And then you have her love interest, Eli, whose partner has previously passed away. And so he is also really skeptical and hesitant to put himself out there. She owns a bookstore. He is a carpenter, and they meet at a Halloween party, and they're both wearing masks. They talk to each other for an hour without exchanging names or finding out who the other person is. And they both walk away from that experience going, I felt comfortable with that person and I'd like to get to know them more. And then he happens to walk into her bookstore. Now, she thinks she recognizes him. He thinks he recognizes her. Part of the reason why this didn't quite go to the full 5-star, because I felt like that part was a little bit murky in terms of what they thought they knew and what they didn't. I thought that they made that connection before they had, because of the way that it had been written. But then later on they were still unsure whether it was the other person. So like that part for me, even though it didn't change the story, it was just kind of like, hang on, I thought they'd figured this out already. It's a really sort of sweet back and forth. There is a little bit of a miscommunication. Well, it's not even a miscommunication trope. It's Maeve seeing Eli with his sister and jumping to a conclusion because she's been left for another woman before. It kind of just makes her gun shy and she just doesn't want to get hurt. But when she finds out that she's the one who's made the mistake, she's the one who has jumped to a conclusion that is not a truth, she does come and apologize and explains a lot more about kind of why that happened, and that she wants this relationship to happen. When I say that these two are so stinking cute, their banter is hilarious. They've both got this kind of snarky edge to their conversation, and it's not mean, it's never mean, but it's just a little bit of bite to the conversation, which I really love. There are some really funny lines and little conversation snippets in this book that I just loved. Like, it was just a perfect, chill, easy Halloween romance. It's bookish. He makes her puzzle boxes. That's his love language, is making wooden carvings for the people that he cares about. So it was incredibly sweet. So I guess the really cool thing about this particular try chapter video, because none of these were actually on my TBR, none of them exist except for Unlucky in Love, which I borrowed out on KU, actually are physically sitting on my device. There is no pressure for me to read any of them. They were completely found by random, like literally searching Halloween romance novellas. That's all I searched. I found a winner. So I will take that any day of the week. I will take that. That is fantastic. So a little bit of housekeeping at the end. If you haven't seen Heather's video, go over and check her channel. I will leave her channel link down below. And if you haven't already completed my channel survey and you would like to give some feedback on the channel and some suggestions for me to consider moving forward into content into 2026, I will also leave that linked down below. Otherwise, if you just want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a pumpkin emoji. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're staying safe and healthy. And I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.